I think at a very young age, I knew I wanted to do concert sound. When I was a very young boy, 13, 14 years old, I was able to go to concerts, lots of big concerts in the middle of the United States. I lived in near St. Louis, and I remember one particular incident. I've told this story many times, but I'll tell it again, where I went to see Supertramp, and it was at a relatively small theater, and I had pretty good seats, but I remember during the show thinking, wow, this sounds incredible, you know? I kind of had that moment, even as a teenager, where I thought, wow, this sounds really great. And as I was walking out of the venue, I walked right by the front of house console, right? And there was somebody packing up, and I kind of stopped, and I was looking at it, and I was thinking, what is this? What does this do, you know? And the person who was managing the front of house position saw me, and he invited me up on the front of house riser. And he showed me, it was a Midas console, I remember it now, you know, I remember the picture now. Clark Technique EQs, all the other stuff. And he showed me what was going on, and I know from that moment on, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So it was all about figuring out how to do that as a young teenager, right? So kind of fast forward a little bit, I was out of high school, in college, and working kind of weekends for a sound company there doing big shows. And during the week I was working at a recording studio doing demos for artists and all kinds of things like that. And luckily got hired by a local band in Kansas City that broke out to be a very big band named Shooting Star. I was working for them as a monitor engineer and all kinds of other things. I actually did part of the stage for them. And it was an incredible experience because they were going and opening up for lots and lots of big bands and doing big shows on their own. So it was at the age of 19 years old, 20 years old, I mean, it was an incredible experience. And I was able to just use that to gain more and more experience and make more connections over a period of years. And here I am, you know, 33 years later, you know, and I've worked for some of the biggest bands out there and been touring and working in recording studios my whole life. So it's been a great career, So yeah, virtual sound check. You know, it was something that was born out of necessity for me, you know, where I was working with artists that gave me very, very little rehearsal time and not really high quality sound check time. So I had to find a way to be able to listen and work on mixes and work on the PA, sound quality, et cetera, without the band present. And you know, I really just, for all intents and purposes, adopted a recording studio workflow into live sound. We just didn't have the technology to do it very easily or very elegantly at the time. This was probably about 1993, 94, were the first times that I ever attempted virtual sound check on an analog console and on a digital recorder. So, but even then, as simple as it was, I could tell it was going to be very, very effective in doing what we wanted it to do. And then around 1999, 2000, when I came to work for DigiDesign as a consultant, it was, you know, it became kind of apparent at some point that we were going to be able to make this a real workflow and build it into consoles, et cetera. And I think it's something that has kind of changed, you know, the face of live sound for the better for the entire industry. You know, you know, the long and the short story of it, I think, is that, you know, live sound is an industry where your experience is gained on the job. You know, you never get a chance to work on your abilities as a mixer unless the band is on stage or there's an audience in the room. So it takes a long time to get good. And you know, you have a tendency not to experiment, not to try new things. You kind of fall into whatever's comfortable and whatever is working, and we use that for every band. But with virtual sound check, you can actually practice. You can actually, as a live sound mixer, practice your mixing skills before the audience or the band is on stage. So it's very, very important workflow for live sound.